Hey guys, what's up? It is week 336. Got a bunch of reviews for you, 13 movies to talk about, a decent size update, so let's hop right into this. And the first one up is Sammo Hung's directorial debut from 1977, and this is The Iron-Fisted Monk. Now, I covered a bunch of Sammo Hung movies on here, mostly movies that he actually directed and starred in himself. Encounters of the Spooky Kind. He was in so many good movies. Millionaire's Express. Just an excellent kind of actor, martial artist, and he has a unique style about him. He's got a lot of comedy stuff with him. He's in a handful of movies with Jackie Chan. They made a couple movies together, and he directed them. So he's just one of the premier kind of martial arts guys from Hong Kong. A lot of Golden Harvest movies and everything like this. So this is the first time he actually got a chance to direct. And The Iron-Fisted Monk kind of surprised me because then in a lot of ways it's kind of very comedic, and Sammo Hung. In other ways, it's incredibly dark. So it's mostly comedic and dark, which is a tone that Hong Kong tends to do quite a bit. So what we have here is Sammo Hung is a monk. And he basically was belittled and beaten up while he was working at this kind of small little fish market. And his boss was brutalized in front of him by a gang of Mandarins. Manchurians, I think it's called Manchurians. And he's very upset about it, so he goes to this kind of monk to learn monastery to try to learn how to train and become like a badass. But he doesn't really fit in. He's climbing trees and eating birds' eggs and stuff. They're not supposed to eat meat. He's just doing all sorts of shenanigans and ridiculousness, as you would expect with Sammo Hung. But he's tough. He can fight. So he decides to try to escape because his conscience is kind of grating on him that he doesn't think that if he lets these guys continue that the more people will get hurt, and he should be out there, stopping them. At the same time, when he gets out, he kind of starts to, kind of go against the community and everything. But there's these guys that are going around, these Manchus, and it's like a gang, and they're brutal and they're vicious, and they end up the leader of them is kind of royalty. And he goes around and rapes whoever he pleases. And that's when the dark stuff comes in here. There's a really brutal rape scene and of the bad guy here. And when the girl's brother figures out what happened, he completely snaps and attacks the first one he sees. Now, Sammo Hung is teaching this guy a lesson at the time. He has him tied up, and the guy was bullying kids. And this isn't the rapist, but he's part of the gang. And while he's tied up, this other guy attacks him brutally and stabs him. This makes the gang, because some of the gang members saw Sammo Hung beating him up, think that Sammo Hung is responsible for this. He's not. But at the same time, the gang kind of focuses on Sammo Hung. They start focusing on this other guy. And there's some other kind of shady characters within this small town that want to take out kind of these workers that work in kind of like a sheet place, whatever, making staining fabric and everything like that. So all this kind of comes to a head where Sammo Hung starts teaching some of these factory workers how to fight, and there is a group of these villains that are going to have some really, really terrible things up their sleeves, and it gets crazy. There's a lot of people that get killed. There's another rape scene that's brutal. Like I said, it gets crazy, it gets violent, it gets depressing and sad, but at the very ending, Sammo Hung has a friend who is a monk as well. And there's a lot of funny stuff of them going, like, and eating stuff they shouldn't, and them taking them to a brothel, all sorts of things like that. But at the very end, the showdown's excellent, because the bad guys are great. Like, this is one of these deals where I compare it to a spaghetti western, where all the bad guys in the back are recognizable, they all have unique looks, they have unique moves, they do unique things that stand out to a point where you're like, oh, even if they don't have many lines, you're just like, oh, that son of a bitch, I hope he gets it. And at the very end, he'll have a showdown, and we'll have a moment and everything like that. But it's well choreographed, and it's not just one-on-one battle. Sammo Hung mixes it with 2-3 people at the same time, which is great. There's crowds of fighting and stuff. It's a lot of stuff to choreograph. It's very impressive for a directorial debut, but obviously he had been working in these movies for a very long time, so it was no like kind of beginner for him. I thought this was great. I thought that it was brutal and when it should be brutal. It was funny when it should be funny. It was touching. I really enjoyed this one. This was probably my second favorite Sammo Hung. Maybe, I don't know. Every one of them I've watched, I've really liked. I really like this one. I would give it a high recommend. I definitely want to watch this whole filmography if I can in time. They're putting them out, so I'm picking them up or seeing them or getting a sent to review. So it's a mixture of things here. And I'm really enjoying what I've seen from Sammo Hung. But this is great stuff. This is the Iron Fisted Monk from Arrow Video, of course. As far as the special features are concerned, we have tons of different dubs and audio presentations here. We have original lossless Cantonese and Mandarin mono audio plus lossless English dub. Two choices of English dub audio, the original export dub, mono, first time ever in the US, and the newer 5.1 dub created for the international DVD presentations. Optional English subtitles, audio commentary by martial arts cinema expert Frank Jin. I love that. Frank Jin talks about, Sammo getting his chance, but he also mentions something in the beginning of this commentary, which I didn't know about him, which is he does all these commentaries, which is why he knows so much about it. He's a fan, obviously, but he used to run or work at Tai Sing. You guys remember the DVD label? That I'm sure you still have tons of these DVDs on your shelves because a lot of them haven't been upgraded to Blu-ray. Yeah, he basically worked there for years. So that's a reason why he knows so much about this stuff and is so informative. There's 2 archival interviews with Sammo Hung, archival interview with Casanova Wong, original theatrical trailer, reversible sleeve featuring original newly commissioned artwork by Gary Mills. Then we have a double-sided fold-out poster featuring original newly commissioned artwork by Gary Mills. And, of course, a collector's booklet featuring new writing by Brandon Bentley. So, great movie, very entertaining, very good bad guys. One of the bad guys has like a flail, like a ball on a chain. He's awesome in here. And there's a big attack scene where the factory squares up with the villains, and that is intense stuff. And you'll also recognize there's a little guy in this movie. And you'll recognize him from The Last Blood, and I think he's in Fatal Vacation. He's kind of a comedic kind of character in this. He has a very small role, but I recognized him right away. Okay, next up is from Visual Vengeance Entertainment, and this is Lycan Colony. Yeah, that's right. A werewolf movie from Visual Vengeance. This is from 2006. So this is not my favorite time for independent cinema. I mean, there is some great independent cinema, but 2006 is kind of a rough time. There's a lot of low-budget stuff. And this one is more in line. Visual Vengeance will put out a lot of Super 8 movies or SOV movies that are older, some that were never released, but stuff like The Abomination, which is totally my jam, and Necrophiles. I love that kind of stuff. And then they'll put out stuff like Suburban Sasquatch and Lycan Colony. This is not really my kind of thing. I know that a lot of people enjoy these movies just because they're so ridiculous or audacious or anything like that. But sometimes I know that there's a kind of weird kind of thing where people like the oddball absurdity of it, but then there's a group of people that like to celebrate the cheapness and what they consider so bad they're good movies, and that's not something I ever really enjoyed. So when I put this in and was watching, I was like, this is definitely not my kind of thing. It's very low budget, very shoddy, but super low budget at the same time. In 2006, low budget was not the same as now low budget. You have so many more tools in your, that you can use. So I was really curious to hear what the director would sound like in interviews and stuff like that. So I started listening, and he has an interview where he's talking, this movie has a lot of these bad digital effects and weird editing problems and sound problems and ADR, all this kind of stuff, because he mentions it was rushed. He had to edit it in X amount of time. He's aware of the mistakes. He's a writer. He likes film. He likes stories with stuff. So it's not like he's oblivious to the shortcomings of the movie, which would I be worried about. I hate, it's not really my thing. Like, right, when people are like, the guy from The Room's just like, hey, it was supposed to be a comedy. Everybody's like, Birdemic, he gets onto the joke and he starts like making the movies even worse. It's just a weird kind of thing that I've never really enjoyed, to be honest. Like celebrating like bad movies that people like ironically and not for real. But this one, the director seems to be aware of what the movie is and everything like that, and he likes it, and he understands that there's shortcomings and everything like that. And he when he was talking, he's like, to fix them or not, and they're like, well, no, you don't want to fix them because that's the charm of the movie. So it's like I said, super low budget, but it's kind of ambitious. It's a really ambitious movie in a lot of ways. So essentially, these couple of people come into this small town, and surprise or not, it's a Lycan colony, and they cause some problems right away. And one of the guys kind of freaks out, turns to a werewolf, and starts to attack. But the werewolves aren't necessarily villains in this, and you kind of realize that there's other things kind of going on. It gets really weird and really large, and I had trouble just paying attention to it because some of the effects are really shoddy. Some of the editing is just weird. There's a scene where a character is transforming into a werewolf for it feels like 10, 15 minutes where he's just freaking out. This is totally not something made for me at all. It's not my kind of thing. Like I said, there's a riff tracks on it, if that tells you anything. A lot of people love these kind of movies. This is not something I would like. You know, the movies I do end up liking like this are kind of ironically. I just enjoy them. And, you know, I don't see the things that other people see sometimes in that. But this one, it's just very, very cheap and low budget. And it just, there's a lot of crazy mistakes made, a lot of weird ADR and everything like that that I just don't really even grasp, to be honest. Like, it's just like lines that pop in that don't seem like they're there. A moving tattoo, like the back of the guy's neck, like he moves and the tattoo appears, and it's just like that kind of stuff. It's like completely rushed to the point. Like, why would you even mention a tattoo without having it on him and then have it in dialogue? It's just bizarre to post a tattoo, right? Put a CGI or whatever kind of effects tattoo after you've done it. The dialogue can be funny. There's a couple actors in here that do have charisma because they're just kind of bizarre. In fact, the older gentleman, he's very funny. He's like, "Can we have your ketchup?" And he's just like, I wouldn't necessarily call all the actors horrible, but just kind of strange choices, you know what I mean? Like bizarre, kind of weird things going on. I can't recommend this because it's not really my thing. It's not something that I personally enjoy. Other people will kind of enjoy this kind of thing. Watch the trailer, check it out, and you might like this. I know some of my friends really love this kind of stuff. It's just not for me, you know. It's just kind of in a weird kind of style and goofiness and cheapness. I love Goofy, and I can appreciate its ambition. Especially, got to remember that this was a different time in 2006 how movies were made. They didn't have access to the stuff that they do now, so it obviously suffers a lot in that department. As far as the special features, we have commentary with director Rob Roy, commentary with Sam Panico of BS About Movies, and Bill Von Ren of Drive-In Asylum. New 2002 interview with director Rob Roy, the full riff tracks version of Lycan County, blooper reel, Lycan County music video, original trailer, Vengeance Vigil trailer, 4-page liner notes, essay by Sam Panico, collectible folder mini posters, and then some other things like that. So yeah, if this sounds like it's up your alley, check it out. If you like Suburban Sasquatch, I would say pick this up. If not, maybe just kind of check the trailer out and everything like that first. Okay, next up is another one from Visual Vengeance, and this is Vampires and Other Stereotypes. Now, the title's pretty wild, long, mouthful kind of title. This is from 1994, SOV. Now, I've actually covered this. When I did 1994, I watched this. I popped out an old DVD that I used to have and watched this one. And I kind of take away the same thing I take away rewatching it. So, I rewatching this movie, it's goofy and silly in a fun way. They compare it to like Evil Dead 2 kind of style humor. And I can see what they're kind of going for. It's very, and this is a problem with a lot of SOVs. You know, it's harder to edit these things. There's a lot of dead air. There's a lot of like non-stepping on. It's just, the pace is off. The dialogue is slow. All that kind of stuff. It happens a lot with SOVs because the editing and things like that. It shows painfully in this one, the pace is off. So essentially what happens is we have kind of these kind of X-File style kind of agents. You don't really know where they're from. And they save this older gentleman in this kind of warehouse. He's about to be kind of like attacked by this demon thing. And they save him and they start questioning him, grilling him. Meanwhile, a group of younger kids, 3 girls, I think, and a couple guys, or just one guy, 3 girls, end up showing up to this warehouse thinking it's a party. And what happens is they all get trapped in here because somebody bumps something and it's a ritual, and they end up in hell. Like this factory, this warehouse is a direct kind of line to hell. So they're all stuck in here while there's like demon faces on the wall. There's weird kind of creatures crawling out of the pit. Of course, they fall into the pit. People go into the pit, and there's demons with great makeup. So I'll say this about the movie. It's ambitious as hell. There's a decent-sized cast. It was smart doing it in an isolated location so they could have that kind of controlled environment and save on the budget. The effects are good. The effects are fun. The story, the idea is cool. There's lots of great stuff going on for this one. But again, I don't like the acting, really. I don't like the pacing, really. All that kind of stuff just doesn't work for me, and I catch myself zoning out. There's a really kind of funny moment, or a bizarre, so bizarre that it's intriguing moment, where somebody mentions Jim Morrison and Elvis earlier. So, of course, they're going to find Jim Morrison and Elvis in hell, but they're not the Jim Morrison and Elvis that you would know, right? Of course. So, it's just kind of bizarre. You know, anybody that's ever seen Evil Bong, it kind of reminds me of that, where like they're in this kind of weird kind of realm. And just random people show up and they at times and they start talking. Like that whole scene reminds me of something out of Evil Bong, which I'm not a huge fan of it myself, you know. So this one, like I said, it has ambition. It's worth watching. It has a lot of great things going for it. It's just every time I try to connect to this movie, this is a movie, one of these ones that I wish I loved. I just don't have an affinity for it. It just leaves me kind of cold and a little bored. But like I said, I do appreciate the special effects. They're great. And as far as the Blu-ray disc is concerned, I mean, it looks as good as it's going to look for a SOV. You know, it's probably remastered from the original SD master, which is good from the 1-inch tape. But the special features are what I'm enjoying here. And this director went on to do other movies. I know he was involved with Addicted to Murder. I think he might have directed those, which I have on the shelf, and I've been meaning to watch those for 20 years whenever I bought the DVDs. But as far as the special features here, we have a commentary with director Kevin Lindenmuth, commentary with actor Mick McCleary and director Kevin Lindenmuth, commentary with Tony Strauss and Wing Chops of Wing Chops magazine, director Kevin Lumouth interview, Lindenmuth, and I enjoyed that, hearing him talk about the movie, making it. Actress Lauren McLaughlin interview, and a lot of these people didn't do that many movies, maybe one or two, or this might have been their only one. So to get interviews with them was pretty interesting. Actor Mick McCleary interview, actress Suzanne Turner interview, actress Sally Narkis interview, makeups effect artist Ralis Khan interview, special effects artist Scott Slinger interview, and these I enjoyed, because they talk about making the effects on here and going on to work on other ones. One of them went on to work on a bunch of big projects, you know, Army of the Dead, the one for Netflix, and he has a huge career. And the other one had done special effects. He works in haunted houses and stuff. So honestly, the special effects are the best part of the movie, and they went on to do a lot bigger things for good reason. Then we also have photographer Sung Park interview, which is great because he shows images from the whole thing. He has a bunch of stills of the making of and stuff, and he talks about being there. Publicist Joe Marcini interview, and I actually enjoyed this because he mentions a lot of film reviewers who refuse to watch anything made after 19 or before 1988, and it just baffles my mind. I'm sorry, I'm not going to listen to any. Like it or not, as a person that's going to talk about film, you should be open to watch any type of film. There it is. And if you're somebody who's like, I won't watch black and white, I won't watch anything made before 1988, I have zero opinion about you. I have zero. I don't value your opinion at all. I'm sorry, I really don't, because you won't. He basically goes on this thing about people not knowing their film history at all. Then they go and talk about these movies, and it's just like, why even listen? Like, we all don't know everything. We all haven't seen everything, but people should try to be a little bit more well-rounded in some of the stuff they cover. You know, if you should leave your comfort zone every once in a while, you should try to watch stuff that you weren't typically watch, right? And I enjoyed that interview as well. And then we have behind the scenes image gallery. Then we have his Super 8 films, which are crazy, weird. It's basically like a music loop, and then we show a lot of these things. Early Super 8 films with director commentary, original trailer, visual vengeance trailer, 6-page liner notes by Tony Strauss of Wang Chops magazine, stick your own VHS sticker, all that kind of stuff on here. So like I said, I don't love this movie. I like the cover art, I love the special effects, and I like the stuff on the disc. So it was nice to listen to other people talk about the movie and talk about their past and the history in the movie and everything like that, and get these people that were around during the time to talk about, you know, film critique and all that kind of stuff now. But anyways, I think a lot of people will like this one. You know, this one is much more up my alley than something like Lycan Colony. But it just, like I said, this one doesn't connect with me for a couple reasons, like I mentioned before. I would be interested to see the director do a re-edit, because I loved Shutter Dead. I always loved it, but when Scooter McRae did that re-edit, it was even better. So just cutting dead air out, and I understand from other directors talking about it, SOV is not easy to edit. I mean, I used to shoot stuff on VHS and I didn't do any editing because it was just, it is what it is. You get what you get, right? But yeah, vampires and other stereotypes. Okay, the next one is one that I checked out on Shudder, and this is VHS 85. It's funny that I've been watching all these VHSs, right, all along. You know, it's a franchise. I'm not a big franchise guy, but for some reason, these VHS movies always draw me in. Like, even if I don't love the one previous, I'll give this one a shot. So we had a bunch of them. We had the original VHS, which was kind of a phenomenon. I mean, it kind of made a big splash. Then we have the second one, which was my personal favorite. Then we have 3 Viral, which kind of took a step back. And then what one came after that? Would that have been 94? I think so, which had some good shorts in there. Then 99 had a couple that I liked, and then we have 85. 85 is also the year of my two of my favorite horror movies ever made. I think probably two of my top 3. I don't know if Dawn's my second or Return of the Living Dead, but Day of the Dead, Return of the Living Dead. I actually covered 1985 for this show in 22 Shots once, where I went and watched over 100 horror movies from 1985. So seeing this was kind of fun. Yeah, so there's a bunch of shorts on here, and the first one opens up. A lot of these are actually in 4:3, like actually they would be on VHS, which was nice. A couple of them aren't, which always rubbed me the wrong way when I was watching VHS and it was in fucking widescreen. It's like, guys, what are you doing? Just whatever. But it is what it is. This is made by multiple different directors here. Let me think if I can think of all of them. I'm not going to remember. I know Scott Derrickson did one, and did David Slade do one on here? Anyways, before I spoil anything, I enjoyed all these shorts. This is one of the VHSs where I liked all of it. And this is a rare one where the wraparound is good. Now, it basically is like you're watching a VHS tape and there's like segments cut into it, but the wraparound is throughout the entire thing. The wraparound kind of follows the story of them finding this prehistoric kind of man or something that can change shape, and it obviously gets creepy and has a good stinger kind of comedic thing at the very end. Recommended. The first story follows these people vacationing, and there's going to be spoilers here because I basically can just break down the shorts and that's about it. So it's really hard to critique these or talk about these in general without kind of giving you the sum of them and then not like I just saying things I liked or not. So there'll be spoilers on the VHS 85, but overall I really liked it. Probably my second favorite of the 6 films, honestly. It goes 2, this one, and then I'd have to really look and see which ones I like next best out of that. So, but anyways, the first short kind of follows these kids vacationing, and something really bad's gonna happen. It's like home videos, and all of a sudden they start getting shot violently, and it feels really real. It feels really dark. It feels like a snuff film. It feels like Faces of Death, but the real segments out of Faces of Death, if there is any. Maybe Faces of Death too. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels that kind of style. And there's a twist, of course, in here where they wake back up and they realize it must be something in the water because they're in a lake. But so the next one is my favorite short, and this basically follows kind of a small little newscasting station, and it's kind of goofy, and they're talking and everything, and then there's a tremor, and it realizes it's an earthquake, and what happens is the whole entire building caves in, a couple people die, these rescue people come in to help them, and you're basically in hell. Like, it's just terrifying point of view, earthquake kind of style thing. And essentially, they keep going deeper and deeper under the buildings, and they realize that they're seeing some sort of Aztecian demon, which is great. Awesome, crazy, creepy, scary, claustrophobic. Reminded me a lot of Wreck. Great stuff. The best short of the bunch. And then I don't remember which one we go to next, honestly. I know there's a couple more here, but I think it's the next one we go to. Like, we're having this family do this celebration, this kind of coming of age celebration, and it ties directly into the first one, which was nice. Nice little twist there, kind of fun. And it's basically a family of horrible, kind of like these classic like classism kind of story here where they kill people to be inducted in their family. It's a good story. It has a good twist at the very end, which is very fun. And then I think this final story, maybe I missed one. I always miss one. Even if I like it, I always tend to miss one of these stories in the anthologies because I don't typically take notes all off the cuff of this. Maybe I should take notes. It'd be a lot better, but I like to kind of freestyle thing. So the last story is a Scott Derrickson one, and this is the most bizarre, I think. I don't know if it's 100% successful, honestly, but I did kind of enjoy what they did with it. And what I will say with this one is it's the goriest. It's the most violent. It's the most brutal. It's just nasty. It's nasty. For what they make up, when you're trying to figure out logically what the fuck is happening, if it can happen, if it works, or its own weird rules work, you'll kind of be taken back by the gore and gratuitousness of it. It's kind of like Brain Scan in a weird way, but kind of like Back to the Future, Brain Scan, all this kind of weird shit. So basically what happens here is what we have is this cop receives we see this like real fucked up point of view murder, right? And it's like a whole video. It's really brutal. And then we kind of have this cop walk into this crime scene, and he's like, "Hey, this is the same house that murder took place, and I got this tape 3 days ago." They're like, "There's no way this murder took place yesterday." So we have some sort of time jumping serial killer, and it goes and ties into this kid whose nightmares and his father, and it starts to get really weird and really complicated and fucking crazy. People seeing their own death, all this kind of stuff. Liked it. Weird. I don't know if I like all the performances in this one, though. I think this is the worst acted out of the bunch, even though I don't know if it's poorly acted or just poorly tonally told. Like the actors are acting in something more comedic than they should be, and it's really dark and nasty, so you're like, what the fuck is this? But overall, I thought VHS 85 was good. It's one of my favorite movies I saw this year, and I haven't seen that many. I'm probably under 20 for this year. It's not really, I don't know if I'm doing a year-end 2023 list. I just don't know. My favorite movie is Candyland. I liked Project Wolf Hunting, and I like this one. And then Unwelcome is fun. There's a couple other ones I enjoyed too. But, for the most part, it's not been a really strong year for me. But I've also not watched very many. So I just don't know if I'm really qualified to do a top 10 of 2023, but we'll see when we get there anyways. But VHS 85, good stuff. All right, we're going to get into those 1981 movies. I was 85 because VHS 81 movie, we're going to 81.
Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway, evil will invade the world.
Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born, all the shock and the horror was there. Oh, the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago.
All right, we're going to be a little brief with this one because I've covered it before, and it was with Jeremy, and this is not necessarily horror, but horror adjacent. Shock Treatment, 1981. Yeah, not an equal. I mean, not a sequel, not a prequel, but an equal to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. The sequel to the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, it doesn't have all the entire cast coming back. I mean, but we do have a slew of them. We do have, you know, of course, Magenta, and the three big kind of main ones here, Riff Raff and Magenta and all them coming back. We don't have Meatloaf, we don't have Tim Curry, we don't have Gina Davis, and we don't have Barry Boswick. But kind of we get Clifton DeYoung and, of course, Jessica Harper to step in. Charles Gray comes back as well. I believe, yeah, he's in the first one as well. But, yeah, so shock treatment. Now, this movie obviously was kind of panned when it first came out. And I don't know, like, horribly panned. Just, it was compared directly to Rocky Horror, and it just never lived up to the hype. Never became the cult item that Rocky Horror was. It became, like, the cult item, right? People that know shock treatment love shock treatment, I think. But I think this movie is really intelligent, really ahead of its time. It's kind of like reality TV before reality TV. So we have Denton, this little town that's all televised for everything and everybody. So there's all these different little shows that come out of Denton, and Denton's supposed to be the picture perfect town, right? But Denton's really kind of a, everything that's right under the surface, right? The racism, the classism, all that kind of stuff is right there under the surface. But it has a live audience in there, and they take people and out there, and they try to like do these shows with them. Now Jessica Harper, who Janet and Brad, right? Jessica Harper is Janet here. Obviously from Suspiria and Phantom of Paradise. Probably got this role because of Phantom of Paradise, another horror musical kind of thing, which I love. But so she's also got a great voice. I'm pretty sure that's her singing voice. So her and Brad are having marital problems, so they basically get put on this show to try to fix them. And there's this kind of asylum show where they go to there, which includes Rick Mile, of all people, from, of course, Drop Dead Fred and the Young Ones. So he's in there. And so basically they kind of put them through the show. But the guy running the entire station, the entire program, is, of course, somebody from Brad's past. And they're going to have a confrontation. I really like the music. I think the music is very catchy. It always gets stuck in my head. I love that the music are obviously parodying that like good old-fashioned 50s Americana. Everything is great and perfect, but really it's not. And they show in the songs and everything like that it's not really perfect and everything like that. They have like spots of consumerism in there. It's just really clever and really funny and really silly and really bizarre. And everybody in here is doing such a good job. Me and Jeremy were watching it, and we were talking, and I was just like watching the three big kind of principal, people from the Rocky Horror in here dancing and everything. And you can see like Riff Raff, I can't think of his actor name off the top of my head, sorry, but you can see Riff Raff just doing so much more than a lot of the other people that aren't the big three, just like in his eyes and everything in his dancing. It's really good. I really enjoy this. I love seeing Rick Mile in it. The second movie he was in 1981, including American Werewolf in London. Two smaller roles, two bizarre roles, right? Rick Mile, man. But yeah, Charles Gray is excellent. I love Charles Gray. You can tell he's having such a good time. Underrated actor. You don't hear much people bring up Charles Gray. But I think anybody that knows who he is loves Charles Gray. Jessica Harper is probably one of my top 5 favorite actresses. She's so good in Suspiria. She's so good in Phantom of Paradise. She's excellent in this. Clifton DeYoung's really good in this one as well. Always love this movie. I really do. I love the dad too. The song. He's like, a man never jock another man's tools. I don't want to say any of the other lines in that song because people can misinterpret it. But it's a great song. I love the guy that looks like John Candy in the crowd. Clearly not John Candy, looks just like him. Love that the crowd's involved with it, sleeping in studio. It's just a bizarre, weird movie. Farley's 5 Flavors. It's fun. It's clever. It's very quotable. You can sing along with it. This and Phantom of Paradise are my favorite musicals. I love those movies. I always sing to them. And they're two soundtracks that get stuck in my head, and also touching too. But anyways, I love Shock Treatment. This Arrow edition's pretty nice. It's got a bunch of stuff on here. It's got an archival audio introduction by Richard O'Brien, who's Riff Raff. Brand new audio commentary with actresses Patricia Quinn and Nell Campbell. Archival audio commentary by Madman, Mike, and Bill Brennan. DTV presents a Shockumentary, retrospective making of featurette Let's Rock and Roll, Shock Treatment Super Score, archival featurette on the music of Shocky, the Rocky Horror Treatment, Treatment Super Score, archival featurette on the music, vintage behind the scenes documentary, Patricia Quinn in conversation with Mark Commode, fan featurettes and cover songs, promo gallery featuring trailers, radio spots, stills, exclusive digipack patching featuring newly commissioned artwork by Graham Humphreys, collector's booklet featuring new writing on the film by Michael Blythe, set of exclusive Shock Treatment mix and match cards, exclusive double-sided Denton poster, complete soundtrack CD. Love this movie, great stuff, definitely going to appear in my top 1981 horror adjacent movies, along with stuff like Miss 45 and Blow Up and Looker. So many good movies that are kind of like flirting with that line of horror movies from 1981, but I just don't know if they're quite horror movies. Great stuff. Dun, 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 dun. We got a bunch of bizarre ones from 1981 this time. A lot of borderline horror. A lot of ones that are listed as horror, but you're like, is that horror? I don't know. So this first one is Ghost of Love. This is an Italian film. Maybe it's with music by Riz Ortolani, I should say. And I bring that up too because he does a score and it's an excellent score. It also stars the lead from La Dolce Vita, which means something because he's an excellent actor. But the score here is Riz Ortolani, my favorite composer. And there's one part where our lead character runs into the bar to make a phone call. And if anybody doesn't recognize the song, you're all crazy because it's from A House on the Edge of the Park. Which is it's one of the greatest songs. Which one is it? It's I do for you anything you desire. That song is playing in the background, and I immediately my heart melted because that's like my favorite soundtrack along with Cannibal Holocaust. So, anyways, what we have here is this is a really sad kind of crazy story. Ghost of Love. It's a haunted kind of love story deal. So we have this guy who's married. He's a middle-aged guy, and he gets on the bus one day, and this woman gets on there, and she looks very tattered, very torn, very sick, very just kind of run down. He doesn't ride the bus typically. We have a lot of narration, him talking about this. He seems well off. And this lady doesn't have the fare. So he feels bad, and he says he gives her, it's like $1, equivalent to $1 or something like that. And she says, I'll pay you back. He says, no worries, no worries. So then he gets a call. And it's from the lady on the bus fare, and she says, did you not recognize me? And he says, no, I'm sorry. And it's an old love of his, a past love. And he's kind of heartbroken and torn because she looks so poor. She looks so sick. And he basically, there's like $1 sitting on his desk at work, and all this kind of weird stuff starts happening. He starts talking to his colleagues about it and all these kind of things like that. And they're like, oh yeah, the old love, yada, yada, yada. And we kind of get a glimpse at maybe why things didn't work out and everything like that. And then one of his colleagues tells her she died. She died of a terminal illness. And he's like, that's not right. That's not right. But he starts to look into it, and he ends up finding her, going to her old house, and she's there, and she looks gorgeous again. She's back to her old self. And it's very strange. And they start this kind of affair, to be honest. And he's trying to keep it hidden. And lots of strange things start to happen. At one point, it gets really crazy and bizarre, and you don't know if he's losing his mind and all these kind of things like that. It's a really well done movie. Like, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I think the acting's top notch. I think that the haunting, it really feels like a haunting. I feel like the relationship between him and his wife feels real, and it's just kind of it's heartbreaking, and you can see the situation that he's in, why he's like that, and everything like that. I would recommend this. If you like ghost stories, if you like kind of weird, kind of strange, borderline romance, horror stories, then I would check out Ghost of Love. Well acted, well scored, beautiful locations, interesting story. It unfolds well. It leaves you kind of guessing, leaves you kind of wondering, and of course you get the reveal of what happened and all these kind of things. It is kind of a revenge story as well, Ghost of Love. Good stuff. Jumping from one kind of bizarre ghost story to the next, we're going to talk about Miss Morison's Ghost. This is a TV movie, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe it's British. So this is a period piece film, and this is about an up-and-coming kind of academic school that wants to be inducted into like the big kind of academic umbrella, so people will look at them and then kind of like be accepted and everything like that. So this is an all-girls school, so it's very early. A lot of women are not kind of allowed to get educations at this time. So the school is run by this older woman who basically inherited it from her father, and you kind of learn that she's not the most classically educated person, but she does know proper things like that, and she is very stern, and she is a woman of I would say integrity. So she's ready to retire at this point, so she's looking for a replacement, and this younger woman of course shows up, not super young, middle-aged, and she's going to take she thinks she's getting the principal job, but she's going to get the vice principal job until she's ready to transfer. She agrees to it, and they start to have a relationship, the vice principal and the principal. And one time when they're out visiting Paris for something, they both kind of have this weird, what you would say is almost a hallucination, but it's almost like a time lapse where they're seeing Marie Antoinette and everything, off with her head, right? Did she get her head chopped off? Marie Antoinette. I'm terrible with French pronunciation, though. But anyways, so at first they're not really sure what happened. So they start to talk about it and document it, and they realize that they definitely saw some sort of psychical kind of, or ghostly kind of thing. They don't necessarily agree on what to do at first, but they kind of approach the Psychical Institute at the time, which was taken very seriously. They take themselves very seriously, and they kind of talk about their story. They want to have their names in there because they bring a scandal to the school. And at first, the psychical place is like, okay, that's interesting, but they're not going to publish it. And so they publish it themselves. This kind of causes this war between the Psychical Institute and everything like that. So eventually their names get out in public, and everyone knows now that they saw ghosts. and that they're writing this weird story about ghosts and all these things like that. This kind of puts like a wedge in between everyone, right? Like, so they don't really necessarily know what to do, right? Anyways, what happens is there's this really kind of good relationship that blossoms between these two. And although they argue and butt heads, that they show that they have a very same sense of integrity. And there's a really great scene where somebody comes to try to talk them out of it. For good reason, too, to push forward with this lawsuit against this psychical research place. A lot of it is kind of just the politics of the all-girls school, but a lot of it is research about the situation and going back and forth and everything like that. Not necessarily a horror film in the traditional sense, but it does have some ghostly kind of things happening. It's listed as horror on Letterboxd, so I watched it. I'm not upset I watched it. I enjoyed it. The ending is fucking heartbreaking, and I really enjoyed the lead performances of the two women in here. I think they're great, and they have integrity, and sometimes that doesn't get you anywhere, unfortunately. Sometimes it gets you, sometimes your word gets you step back, like John Proctor, man. Sometimes all you got is your word, but sometimes it gets you in fucking trouble too. This is a good film, and I think that at the ending, I think that our lead character here, one of them, learned something. I just didn't expect it to get this dark at the end. But Miss Morison's Ghost would recommend. Great performances, good TV movie, good interesting look at psychical research from the time. Psychical research. Yeah, so Miss Morison's Ghost. Okay, the next one from 1981 is also a kind of a bizarre, crazy film from Yugoslavia. Yeah, I've had all the weird ones this time, okay? And this is Rhythm of a Crime. And this film is crazy. And I would compare it, if you compare Pi. Does anybody think Pi from Darren Aronofsky is a horror film? Then you might consider Rhythm of a Crime a horror film. It's one of these movies, right, where somebody is obsessed with something. I wouldn't say it's as schizophrenic or something like that as Pi. But so what we have, it's a black and white movie. That's probably also the direct comparison I make to Pi, is it's also black and white. And we have this kind of loner guy. He's narrating. He's talking about it and everything. And he lives in this kind of apartment. I believe it's kind of, is Yugoslavia, was that in the USSR at the time, 1981? I would guess so, just the way everything seems to be run. So he's in this kind of small house that his father lived in, his mother lived in. They all lived in here, and he moved back here. So this is a family, the house that's been with his family forever. And what's happening is he basically gets approached by this older man. And this older man says, "Hey, I used to be from this neighborhood. I'm just looking for a place to stay, and this whole neighborhood's getting demolished in a month." He says, "It's getting demolished in a month. Why would you want to stay here?" He's like, "Well, I just really like the neighborhood and everything like that, and I feel comfortable here. You wouldn't even know I'm here." And he seems like a friendly guy, and so eventually he agrees, and he moves in, and it's kind of bizarre. He doesn't really know what to do, and they don't have much communication until one day. He asks him what he's doing, and he has all these newspapers sprawled out, and he's obsessed with statistics of crimes. And he has this giant system where he can start to predict where crimes are going to happen, when they're going to happen, how they're going to happen, who's going to do it, all these kind of variables and everything. And it's very interesting. And of course, our lead character gets interested as well. So they kind of become obsessed when they realize that there's going to be a crime in this general location. But old flame of his moves in to kind of take care of her mother and starts talking to him as well. And she starts to kind of guess, maybe this guy's committing these crimes, and starts to get kind of cloudy where there's paranoia. And weird kind of predictability, all this kind of stuff, the predicting of when's going to happen. He starts to mention that the rhythm of the crimes is off for some reason. And I don't want to spoil anything like that, but it has a pretty dark ending, pretty depressing ending, pretty bleak, and kind of a self-fulfilling ending, which I enjoy. I think this is a good film. I think it's interesting. I think the dialogue there's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of talking, there's a lot of interactions and stuff like that. It's unsettling though. If anybody remember that one Laplace's Demon, where it was kind of the predictability, you could predict what the person was going to do. It's not necessarily that, but it reminded me of that as well. Also a black and white movie. But if you're going to be turned off by a lot of long, kind of interesting conversations about statistics, then don't watch Rhythm of a Crime. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it. Probably the only Yugoslavian horror film or Yugoslavian film I've covered on here. But I love doing these retro years because I see stuff like this. I've watched 3 weird-ass movies, Ghost of Love, Miss Morison's Ghost, and Rhythm of a Crime, all in 1 week, which are weird movies that hopefully broaden my horizons to watch more. But I would check this one out. Good stuff. Recommended. Okay, the next one from 1981 is a bizarre religious horror film called Years of the Beast. Yes. And this is a TV movie. This is based off a novel. So Here's what I am, right? This movie never lies about what it is. It's very upfront, religious, kind of post-apocalyptic revelations, kind of people being ascended into heaven kind of thing right off the bat. It never tries to sneak its message in. It's based off a novel, so it's basically, I wouldn't say like a Christian's kind of like wet dream or something like that. Like, Red Dawn is like a conservative's wet dream. Like, that could happen. Or Nightmare or whatever you want to call it. Like, the Russians and Cubans are going to invade. The commies are going to invade, and we got to take them out. So it's just like people waiting for like the end of the world, right? The end of things. So essentially what we have here is the opening of this movie. We have this teacher, and he learns that his religious kind of his professor above him, they're closing this next semester in college, the economical reasons, and they let him go. Then all of a sudden he disappears. He finds his clothes. He doesn't know where he went. He's like, where did he just go? He ends up going home. He stops at the grocery store. It's chaos. Everybody's being horrible to each other. Everybody's overcharging for everything. All this kind of horrible stuff happening at the grocery store. He gets home, tells his wife he never wants to go there. She can't get a hold of her father. All these kind of things start to happen. We realize that, there's a good thing that the ascension has happened. People who were true blue Christians went up to heaven and left the rest of the people on earth. So before long, there's all the signs, right? Bright lights, fires, all these kind of things going on. And they end up trying to get back to this small town to see where their father is. And they run into the sheriff. And the sheriff's no good from day one. And they meet some other locals, and what's the guy's name? Phil or Jasper? I can't remember his name, but he's this kind of strange old gentleman that becomes a friend of theirs. And it becomes kind of like Day of the Triffids, right? From 1981, the based off the book and everything, where it becomes this post-apocalyptic kind of weird world where martial law is in fact, and you can't have your guns, and you can't have any of your own supplies. So like the sheriff and stuff starts to go around and take everybody's stuff, and everybody has to like pledge their allegiance to this weird political figure that's clearly the fucking Antichrist because he got shot in the damn head and he didn't die, and everyone it's so on the nose that the sign that they have to get to pledge allegiance is 666. So we have a whole new group of born again Christians that are obviously going to rebel and everything like that, and it all kind of ends where the small group of people are trying to escape this tyrannical sheriff and everything like that, and it's kind of like a crazy hunt. There's like dark weird moments, of course, and stuff like that. Overall, it is kind of, I wouldn't really call it a horror film either. It's listed again on Letterboxd as a horror film, but it's more of a religious kind of film. It's not horrible. I think that the acting is solid. I think the characters are solid. It is preachy, right? But it's never insultingly preachy where they just come out and say something like really like homophobic or racist or like, super like offensive, right? Like some movies possibly could from this in that way and say this is the gospel, you should not be that. But it never does that. All the bad guys in the movie are bad. They're horrible. They're clearly just manipulated by the whole thing. And the good guys, they're real people. They're solid people. So overall, it's a fine movie. It's a survivalist movie at the same time as being a religious film. So if you like that, you might enjoy it. I liked it just fine. The bad guy is a dick, and he does a good job at it, the sheriff. But overall, it's not a bad movie. Years of the Beast. Now, when a movie is like a religious film like this, and it's just based off a novel, and it's just showing something that, like that, I'm fine with it. Like, I don't have problems with it. It's always weird movies that, like, I always like got hung up on stuff like Exorcism Emily Rose because it's based on a real case where someone died, and then it tries to like say it's like it's just I don't like how that movie feels. And I've been on and on about Exorcism Emily Rose, how I talk about in the review. If you want to hear about it, go back to that, or on the 22 Shots best of '05 movies or whatever you want to do. I've talked about it till I'm blue in the face. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And Exorcism Emily Rose is dead to me. I don't want to talk about it no more. Okay, the next one from 81 is also fucking bonkers, and this is Death Shock. That's right. A 45-minute British movie that I didn't know much about it. It's made by porno people. And after the first like 2.5 minutes, I was like, this is a porno, huh? This is a porno. So I was like, is this SOV? And my friend told me that it was actually shot on film, edited on tape. Because 81 I'm like, that's before Boarding House. Now I'm getting a little confused. Is Boarding House not the first horror film on SOV? Yada yada. Maybe it was just SOV for the market. And then I was like, no, somebody's like, it's shot on film, edited on tape. That's what I'm being told. So Death Shock is 45 minutes, and it's a lot of softcore sex. We kind of open up the movie with a sacrifice, not much gore, but plenty of nudity, lots of nudity. And then we cut to like a group of like 6 kind of younger people going out, and they're screwing in their car. They're boning. Some of the sex scenes are actually pretty well done. A lot of boning, and I thought they worked because everybody looks like just normal people, which was nice, like normal, attractive people. But I was like, I kind of like that. And you don't see too many. I haven't seen too many softcore or hardcore movies from Britain, honestly. So seeing British people screw was kind of different. Screwing on the English countryside, but yeah, there's plenty of nudity, but no actual like penetration. So softcore it is. They end up kind of stopping at their car breaks down, and this Reverend guy gives them a ride, and he takes them to this weird house where they stay. And this lady comes out, and she's actually in American Werewolf in London. I don't know what part she plays. I bet she's in the porno film that they're watching on the TV because she's a porn actress. But she walks down and is like, "Would you like to feel my boobies?" And I was just like, that's hilarious. That's great. But yeah, there's the acting's not tremendous, but it's fun, and you can tell they're having kind of goofy times. A lot of it is sex. So it's like probably 25 to 30 minutes of sex in this 45-minute movie. Now, like, it's not like Porno Holocaust where it's a 2-hour movie and they just shot like an hour movie and then shot an hour of sex, and you're just like, this is too long. This is just too much Porno Holocaust. This is straight, quick, and straight to the point. And, there is kind of a twist at the very end. For the most part, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's goofy, it's silly. It's kind of like just a fun little goofy porno about, a cult. It's Death Shock. You could do much worse. Much, much worse. So I enjoyed it. It's goofy. As advertised, you'll know what you're getting into within the first 3 minutes. I liked it. Speaking of porno, from 1981, this one is Nightdreams. Now, I know a lot of people have covered this one before because it's so fucking weird. So I watched Death Shock and I was like, that's a softcore. I was like, another one. Let's just watch Nightdreams. Now I heard this has horror kind of themes, so I popped it in. Yeah, it definitely has some nightmare logic and shit in here, a lot of surreal stuff. So it reminds me of Dr. Caligari, of course, and probably, up that kind of alley, right, where you have weird, bizarre experiments and people just screwing and everything like that. So what happens is we have these two kind of like people, like I guess they're doctors, and they're watching this girl. They have this thing on her where they're supposed to give her an orgasm. She hasn't had an orgasm in her everyday life, yada, yada, yada. She's never had an orgasm. So it reminds me of Dr. Caligari big time. So what happens is they keep turning it up on her, and she's having these visions. The first vision is this creepy clown comes out of a box and fucks the shit out of her. And this is hardcore stuff. First he fucks her with his nose. Then we kind of move on. We have kind of a Old West kind of hallucination where there's lesbian sex. And then we have one where there's kind of like a Middle Eastern kind of tinge where she gets involved with a hookah. And then we even have one where she's down and having sex with the devil. So there's all these kind of weird kind of different sex variations where we cut back to these other two people arguing if they should give her more juice or cut back. All that kind of stuff, right? So it's got all these things going on. But yeah, for the most part, it's entertaining. It's shot really dark and creepy, so it does have a horror kind of bend to it. There is obviously explicit nudity. There's penetration, so this is a full-off porno. But I do enjoy kind of the mood, the atmosphere, and a lot of the stuff that our lead actress in here, lead performer, is saying. She's like just saying all sorts like people would like to spread my, and you're just like, oh boy. Boy, she's going for it. And she's got all these different kind of looks for it. Overall, Nightdreams is a bizarre, weird film. Not everyday porno like this, but I enjoyed it. I would buy a Blu-ray, and I would watch this on Blu-ray from Vinegar Syndrome if they put this out. But Nightdreams, worth your time if you like this kind of stuff. I enjoyed it. Yeah, good stuff. If you're crazy. Pervert card, by the way. You definitely need your pervert card. And for Death Shock. Yeah, get your pervert cards ready. Okay, we're going to do the Patreon pick here, and this is Tom Brooker, and he picked Rutger Hauer in Wanted, Dead or Alive. That's right. This is directed by Gary Sherman. Gary Sherman, underrated director. He did some horror films, of course, Dead and Buried, Raw Meat, Poltergeist 3. He also did Vice Squad. So Wanted, Dead or Alive, starring Rutger Hauer and Gene Simmons as a terrorist. Crazy. So essentially, Rutger Hauer is a bounty hunter. He's a super badass bounty hunter. We learned that in the very beginning when he goes and picks up these kind of really vicious criminal and beats him and his two buddies up and arrests him. This guy's ready to commit a horrible murder in this gas station and everything like that. So Rutger Hauer only needs just a shot of whiskey and he's gonna whoop some ass. He drops the guy off to his buddy who's a police officer. He's also in a bunch of movies. You'll recognize him. He's in The Border. He was in American History X. He is the dad from what was his show he was a father in. But you guys will know him right when you see him. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. But he's kind of his buddy. So he's approached by this agent right away when he's hanging out with his girlfriend on the boat later on. And tells him, this terrorist that you know from a long time ago, he's at it again. and we need your help. So he's kind of hired to be this badass bounty hunter and find Gene Simmons, who's just blowing shit up. There's a really crazy scene where he blows this movie theater up and he touches like this kid's face when he walks out. He's a good villain. So basically the FBI or whoever it is, the CIA, whichever shitty central agency company or whatever in this movie, they kind of are screwing over Rutger Hauer, and he gets completely insane, right? I mean, like, a lot of shit blows up in this movie. I mean, like, you're surprised that Rutger Hauer is just getting away with the shit he does. But for the most part, I really like this one. It's entertaining. It's good action. There's a lot of explosions. And he's basically just trying to find the Gene Simmons the entire time. So he'll find a guy. He'll beat the shit out of him. He'll interrogate him. All this kind of stuff like that. So it's typical kind of bounty hunter stuff on a huge... It's like small bounty hunter stuff on a huge like mission, though. It's a giant mission. There's a scene in here where a couple people die and you're like, that's it? They're dead? It's kind of fucked up, honestly. But the ending is worth it. Fuck it, right? I enjoy this one. I don't know how much I'll revisit it. I would watch it. And I do enjoy that, Rutger Hauer had that action kind of whole like life as an action star, after Blade Runner. He's in a slew of these like Omega Doom and Blood for Heroes and what are the other ones? Split Second. So, I mean, like Rutger Hauer's in tons of action movies. It's kind of crazy that he had this whole kind of like career as an action star after that. And people probably only know him from the sci-fi and action movies he's in, but he's in like Legend of the Holy Drinker, and he's in some Paul Verhoeven stuff. It's some interesting art films too. I mean, Rutger Hauer was a great actor, much more well-rounded than I think a lot of people would know. But great stuff. This is a very fun, entertaining movie. I like Rutger Hauer. I always will. I like the cast for the most part. Everybody's pretty solid in it. Interesting to see Gene Simmons in this role. And he's in a bunch of movies. He's in Trick or Treat, of course, and he's in, what's the one, Runaway. I mean, he always does a pretty good job, honestly. For a rock star, he's a good actor. Oh, there's some special features on here. Love hearing Gary Sherman talk. Let me pick this up. I listened to the interview with Gary Sherman and the interview with Mel Harris. I like Gary Sherman. He talks about how he wanted to put Mel Gibson in this fucking movie. Interesting stuff. But yeah, great release too by Kino. Good stuff. Good movie. All right, guys. We're going to hop into that weekly Western.
Let's go. Why not?
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch!
Say when.
Feel I'm knocking up on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door.
Hey, Kitty, you bastard! It's you and I!
I don't deserve this.
I know it's been a while, right? This one here, this week, we have Bullet for Sandoval. That's right. And that stars Ernest fucking Borgnine. Although, that's right, Ernest Borgnine. I always thought he had a mustache on this cover, but he really doesn't. And now I'm looking at it close, and he doesn't. I could have swore he had a mustache on this cover. So it also stars George Hilton, Alberto Del Mendoza. So, yeah, George Hilton is no stranger to anyone that's watched any Italian movies. He's in all Sergio Martino's kind of like a Gialli, and he's great in those movies. He's in a lot of stuff. He's in My Dear Killer. Excellent actor, really. And how could you go wrong with Ernest fucking Borgnine, right? It's one of the best in stuff like The Wild Bunch, The Dirty Dozen. I love Ernest Borgnine. Hanny Calder, another good Western he's in. So, yeah, this is a period piece, of course, and George Hilton is a Confederate soldier. And essentially, he is told by a young man that is his basically his lover's brother, that his Rosa may die. The woman he loves may die, and he needs to get there ASAP and marry her before it's too late. So he deserts post. He ends up getting caught. He ends up killing someone in the process, and he is on the run. He is on the run with Lucky, who is Albert Del Mendoza, who is there, and he doesn't feel like being court-martialed for it, so he goes on the run with them. They run into a crazy kind of ex-monk, who is an excellent character. He's a badass. And these three are kind of on their way to kind of meet up with Rosa. And George Hilton gets there, and it's Ernest Borgnine. And Rosa has died, and he wants nothing to do with him. He's this big rancher. He's like, get out of here. And he has all these like kids. He has three sons that want him dead too. Two of them for sure. And essentially what happens is they hand off the kid. He had a kid. Rosa died in childbirth and giving this kid. They say, take this kid and leave. So George Hilton's got this baby. He's literally has a baby around. And there's cholera going everywhere, especially in this town. And everywhere he stops, him and his gang are just trying to get the baby food. Something tragic happens and George Hilton snaps after that. He becomes this crazy bandit. He meets up with some old friends. One of the guys was in the military with him, and a couple other criminals, really sleazy guys, Morton and One Eye. And they become these banditos. And they start kind of robbing and stuff and doing whatever they want. They run into a couple people like this soldier and the senator and everything like that. And that whole scene's pretty crazy. Actually, some of the stuff was cut. Like Alex Cox on the commentary explains what was cut. And you can tell. I knew right away. I was like, this is not from the original version because they redubbed. See, the movie was dubbed in English, but it's in Spanish as well. So the American output was 90 minutes, like he explains, but there was an hour and 5 minute. It was like a 100-minute version, right? And some of those scenes were never dubbed in English, so they went ahead and dubbed them later. So like it's very obvious which scenes were dubbed later because it's not even close to voice. I mean, they tried their best, but it's just very noticeable and very bizarre. I would have preferred those parts to be in Spanish, but that's just me, okay? I appreciate the effort, but I would have just rather had those scenes in Spanish, the rest in English. But so what happens is you kind of know where this is going, and George Hilton kind of starts to go on this kind of revenge mission. Anybody that turned him away, anybody that caused this horrible thing to happen, they're on a shit list. And, Sandoval is on the top. Sandoval is on the top. That's Borgnine. He's on the top. Right? So Borgnine's great in this. He has these breakdown moments where he's thinking about his daughter. He's like, how can you pray for someone that never lived? And he's just like losing it, like yelling at the maid for bringing her up. He's great in it. You gotta love Borgnine. He's excellent in it. He's intense, and the way he goes out is just, I never would have guessed in a million years, right? He's always good. He's one of my favorites. I always appreciated him playing a villain, too. I mean, he plays a villain in Emperor of the North as an asshole. He's just knocking bums off with fucking hobos off his train. So he's great in Andy Calder. Just great in here, and the ending is excellent, too. You're going to have to come take him. George Hilton's good. Lead. Always enjoyed him. He looks great in the black, too. The whole black outfit. There's a commentary by Alex Cord on this. Alex Cox. Alex Cord is an actor. Alex Cox is the director. Did Straight Until Morning. No, that's the thriller. What is the one he did? Oh, geez. I'm getting old. He did the Western. The crazy, wacky Western with Dennis Hopper. Oh, boy, man. Straight Till Something. I'm so out of it. He also did Repo Man. There's another one that I think a lot of people would have seen. That's probably his bigger movie, of course. But so we have here a bonus Spanish language version, Los Desperados, a commentary by Alex Cox, actor, director, writer, expert on spaghetti westerns, and director of Repo Man and Sid and Nancy. Then we have new extended English dialogue sequences produced by Dan Wool, composer and sound designer, original U.S. theatrical trailer. So great stuff, 101 minutes, rated PG. But don't let that turn you off. Spaghetti Western's a little bit more violent in here than you would think. But a lot of good bandits. And Albert Del Mendoza, if you guys don't remember him, he's in a million Spanish horror films. He's in Horror Express as the crazy kind of monk character. So, I mean, like, all these guys are recognizable. But he's a great character, the monk guy here. The actual monk in the movie, the ex-monk, he's excellent. Good character. His introduction is good stuff, too. But I would recommend that Bullet for Sandoval. I liked it a lot. The ending, heavily inspired by The Wild Bunch, but what wouldn't be? In fact, though, from my understanding, I think Alex Cox said that, Borgnine left the Wild Bunch set to go directly to this set, so maybe they did. You know what I mean? Really, they probably didn't. Maybe more inspired. No, maybe, what's the one I'm thinking of? Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Who knows? Anyways, I like this one quite a bit. I think you guys will, too, if you're a big Western fan. Great stuff. All right, guys, let's get to these questions, comments, concerns, all that jazz. Ken Coakley, I'm a huge fan of the Blind Dead series. As much as I like the first one, Return of the Blind Dead is my favorite. It had Night of the Living Dead vibe to it, in it that it had people who disagree with each other being stuck inside together. The second film also featured Tony Kendall, Fernando Sanchez, and Franco Barra. Fernando Sanchez is great. Having all three and then one sweeten the pot. All four films have an eerie, Gregorian chant-like soundtrack. It reminds me of the music in Alejandro Jodorowsky's Magic Mountain. Holy Mountain? I think you mean? The same eerie feel. It's too bad that Synapse didn't plan a box set like Blue Underground did when they released all four movies on DVD in the coffin-shaped box, but it still looks like another home run for Synapse. Yeah, all the rights are mixed up, I think. So then we have Casey's YouTube channel. Thank you for the nice words on Bathtub, my friend. Much appreciated. Oh, that's Carly. Thank you, Carly. No problem. Bad Brains Horror 3613. Saw Claudio Simonetti's Goblin performance performed Demons with film screening and classic tracks. They played for 3 hours with no break. Zombie, Cut and Run, Suspiria, Deep Red, Tenebrae, Opera tracks were all great. Plus Halloween and Tubular Bells. Great episode. Thank you. That sounds like an amazing show. All right, we're going to do this a little different because my camera has been acting up, honestly, and it's been shutting off, so it's a pain in the ass. So I'm going to start with the Nick Mua question. It's going to cut away. The Nick Mua from Belgium. You scored some fine loot at Cinema Wasteland. Was the landlubber made to walk the plank? Seriously, though, conventions with physical media are the best. Long may they continue. Questions. Billy Drago, R.I.P., and Grace Jones look different looking but excellent actors. Who's your favorite different looking thespian? I will always be partial to Courtney Gaines. I mean, all my favorite actors are character actors, for the most part. So, I mean, like, almost all my favorite actors are going to be bizarre looking, or not typical. Like I just talked about Ernest Borgnine's one of my favorite. Telly Savalas is excellent. Charles Bronson. You know, I mean, like, I like guys that don't typically look that. Susan Tyrrell. People that aren't your typical looks, I typically like. What's your favorite Barbara Steele movie? Gonna be Black Sunday. A most informative hour, kind sir. I bid thee good day. Thank you. Then we have Enjoy Night of the Demons on 4K. Okay, Stephen Hyde, 35, another great video. Thank you. MyTube9405, always fun. Thanks, Dave. No problem. Glooby Vampire, mustache is looking badass. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ilk Vomit 88, where the blue hell is Jeremy? Might get him on again. Also, it was announced today that there's an error in one of the audio options on Night of the Demons 4K. An error in the classic Scream Factory style. Replacement disc and whole shebang underway. Hopefully they just send it. I ordered from them. No, I didn't. Oh, damn, I'm going to have to do proof of purchase and send it to them. And I hate that shit. Way Up, dude. 1382. First face, it did a blue smiley face and heart. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. We're going to get to this update. All right, let's get into this update. Pretty decent size here. First up, we have Pumpkinhead on 4K. I love that they went back with the VHS cover art. I like the old Blu-ray that they did. The commission artwork was fine. But this is one of my favorite VHS covers of all time. It was one that just kind of haunted me in the video store. I always would walk by it. Just always loved Pumpkinhead. Ed Harley. Yeah, I really look forward to rewatching this. I'm going to cover it on the Lacey Lou show, Cut to the Chase, so should be fun to cover that on there for their Halloween stuff. And then we have Scream Factory order here. We have Slumber Party Massacre 1 and 2 in 4K. Yeah, been a while since I watched these, but upgraded them to 4K. Yeah, be fun when I get to 82 to watch that on 4K. Then we have some of their exclusives. They had a sale, so I grabbed Strip to Kill and Final Judgment double feature here. Strip to Kill looks like a lot of fun. I kind of just was like, I kind of have to have that on Blu-ray. So, and then we have here Dance with Death and Dance of the Damned. Double dance here. So, double feature here, another exclusive. Looks like a lot of fun. I never actually seen either of these. They look like a little spicy, a little saucy, probably. Then the last exclusive I picked up from them, Demon of Paradise, which I believe I rented this as a kid and was like, that's not as good as the cover suggests, but I've always loved this cover art. And this is what is this, Santiago movie? Sirio Santiago. Creature from Black Lagoon ripoff. I'll enjoy it, I'm sure. And then last from that sale, I didn't have this. I thought I did. Monster Go Home. One of the Monster TV movies. So, yeah. Anyways, love the Monsters, so why not? America's Funniest Family in their first full-length feature film. Just watched one of their movies for 81. So then finally it's out, guys. Here it is. Men Behind the Sun, Unit 731. Massacre video here. That's right. The first one right here. classic kind of crazy movie here. Always enjoyed this one as much as you can enjoy it, but good stuff. Men Behind the Sun. Look forward to watching it on Blu-ray. Then we have the sequel here, Laboratory of the Devil, Men Behind the Sun Part 2. Yeah, looking forward to checking that one out too. I remember this one being a lot more goofy than the first one. And the third one as well here, Men Behind the Sun 3, A Narrow Escape. Definitely a lot goofier than the second one, I believe, is the most silly, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this one is a little actually more tame than you would expect the third one, if I remember. Then we have here the Andrzej Zulawski box set here, The Third Part of the Night, The Devil, and On the Silver Globe. I wanted this for a while. Finally bit the bullet and ordered it from Eureka. Yeah, I think Possession's a great film, and I really, really wanted The Devil. So, and it's a horror film on Blu-ray from Zulawski. I had to have it. I've wanted to see it for a while. Ooh, we got a cheapy Blu-ray here, My Bloody Valentine Remake 3D. I had the DVD, and I'm going to be rewatching the original on 4K soon. So I was like, why not check out the remake as well? I remember being fine with it. Then we have Death Wish 4, The Crackdown. Yeah, I love Death Wish 4. Love Charles Bronson. Got a nice addition here. This one's got a great performance by John P. Ryan. Yeah, love Kino putting this one out. And then we got Death Wish 5. That's right. I love the tagline here. No judge, no jury, no appeals, no deals. The face of death. He's so old in this one. He's essentially just fucking. He's basically the mechanicking everyone. Yeah, he's just killing people with like tools. Who's the bad guy in this? It's Cheese. Oh, Michael Parks. He's great in it too. Then of course we got Haunted Samurai. This is the Diabolic exclusive here. I've never seen this. I hear it's pretty good. So I picked this up. It's supposed to be a limited run only. So yeah, I'm happy to grab it. It's supposed to be good stuff. And then last but certainly not least, we got Blood and Black Lace on 4K. The Mario Bava classic. How could I not have this on 4K from Arrow Video? 6 models, 6 victims for a crazed mass killer. So this is a beautiful movie. I can only imagine how beautiful it looks in 4K. But anyways, we're going to hop back to the video, guys. Thank you guys very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.